broadcasting live from Houston, from the space city to the world. You are watching Now Media Television.
Welcome back to Biz Talk with Sherman. I'm your host, Sherman Ott from Hoteling Insurance Services. Excited to be back here with you today. Have digital experts with us, Your Tech, Your Biz, Roland Parker.
Hey, Sherman, great to be back.
All right, Roland. Now, we've talked about some different things. You've been in the industry for a number of years now, expertise really out of Houston, Texas, but I think you're out there a lot in the Katy area, and you've seen a lot of mistakes that businesses are making. What are some of the common mistakes that you're seeing?
So there's 5 biggest mistakes that people generally make in business. And one of the biggest is backups. And we see this time and time again. People are not backing up their data, whether it's their laptops, their computers, or an entire server environment. They're just not performing the backups. Or if they're doing the backups, they don't have their backups in different places. So if you look at, there's so many ways that you could lose data. Hard drive failure, we see it happen all the time. Every hard drive ever produced is going to fail. It's just a matter of when it's going to fail. So it's got to be backed up. But then there's also ransomware attacks, viruses that hit your system. There's theft, there's flood, there's electrical damage, there's surges. There's so many different things that can cause you to lose your data. So your data's got to be backed up. But you've also got to test your backups. There's no point in starting a backup routine and then never checking on those backups. We had one company, their backups hadn't run for 4 months. So when we tried to do a restore, nobody had checked that the backups were running. We had another company where their QuickBooks was being backed up, but they were backing up the wrong QuickBooks file. So they had a 5-year-old backup QuickBooks that was being backed up instead of the current. So backup. You've got to have it in 3 different places. You've got to have it locally. You've got to have it in the cloud, and it's got to be incremental.
Now, mistake number 2 seems to revolve around emails and cybersecurity, a real big, scary thing. Talk a little about mistake number 2.
Absolutely. You know, emails, we discussed this recently about emails being compromised. And not only is this detrimental to your business, we're now seeing thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars being withdrawn from people's accounts because their emails were compromised. And then cybersecurity in general, if this is not something that you're concerned about, you're going to be hit sooner or later. So you've got to put in that strategy, email security, email backups, cybersecurity, and you've got to have a plan in place, an incident response plan, to make sure that when something happens, your company's able to respond to it.
Now, when it comes to those updates that constantly seem to come up on the software, how important are those in being able to make sure that you're avoiding mistakes?
You know, it's so critical to keep your software up to date, not just your operating system, but Adobe, QuickBooks. We've seen so many attacks come in because things like they found an Adobe vulnerability. People didn't keep the Adobe up to date. The bad guys were able to get it. Zoom had vulnerabilities. Zoom even found the vulnerabilities. They told people, you've got to update your Zoom. Nobody did it. And their systems were compromised because they didn't keep their software up to date. Not only is it keeping it up to date, but things like your accounting systems and that type of thing, the last thing you want to do is have outdated software that if your system crashed, you wouldn't be able to restore because you're no longer able to run that version of the software. So vulnerabilities, and also if something does go wrong, you want to make sure you've got the current version with support from the vendor that we can get in there, get you back up and running. Otherwise, you're looking extended downtime and a major amount of lost data.
Now, I know that topic number 4, mistake number 4 for a lot of businesses is, you kind of mentioned, is power surges. Talk a little bit more about that and how that affects the business.
Yep, we see it time and time again. People come in, their network's down, computers have been taken out, and sometimes they're plugged into a surge strip that's a $10 strip that they picked out of some box store. They plugged it in. They think it's giving them protection. You've got to have a UPS battery backup on every single device. That means when the power fluctuates, you carry on online. When the power goes off and comes back up, it's going to come back on with a surge. And that's when running off the battery is critical. But you've got to make sure that your computers, your servers, and your networking devices. We've seen it where, the server's up, the computer's up, but nobody's talking to each other. And that's because the modem and the switch were not on a UPS. And they either got taken out or they were temporarily down. But during that time, nobody could actually operate. And it could have been simply prevented by making sure that your switches and any networking device is connected to the battery side of the UPS. We've also seen that before where people plug it into the surge side of the UPS and not the battery side. And when the power goes off, it kicks you off the internet because you didn't have it plugged into the battery. One big thing about UPS is never plug your laser printer into a UPS. If you've got your laser printer plugged into the battery side of the UPS, when it goes to print, it'll actually shut your machine down because it draws too much power. So UPSs are good, but don't plug your laser printer into them.
Now, you have these top 5 mistakes that businesses make. What's the last one?
So one of the big things is preventative maintenance. And if you're not doing preventative maintenance, if your systems are not being monitored, you're waiting for something to go wrong and then you're reacting. Well, in the case of a ransomware, if you're not getting alerted when somebody's trying to get into your system, it's too late by the time you call your IT guy. If your hard drive's beginning to crash, instead of getting it replaced before it crashes, you're waiting for it to crash. And then you're trying to see, can I recover from my backup? You're going to have downtime. You're going to have lost data. That's unproductive. So to remain efficient, business have got to make sure you're monitored and you have maintenance in place. Don't wait for something to fail before you call your IT guy. Sometimes it's too late. And either way, even if they can get you back up and running, you're going to have downtime. You can prevent that with preventative maintenance and being monitored.
Wonderful. Really appreciate you coming on the show, sharing those tips. If someone wants to get a hold of you and your team over there at Impress Computers, how can they get a hold of you, Roland?
The best thing to do, give us a call, 281-647-9977, or you can reach us on the web at impresscomputers.tech. That's IMPRESS computers.tech. And we can do an online assessment. We can meet with you at your premises and look at what's going to be the best solution for you to make sure that you don't experience the downtime and you don't experience lost data.
Wonderful. Really appreciate you coming on the show. I want to thank again Gustavo, Daniel, Katy, our producers and assistant producers, and those that are making this thing really happen. This thing hasn't been stopped with Sherman. Of course, I want to thank all of our sponsors who make this program possible. So we're going to really appreciate if you'd like to share your story in this Sherman world, feel free to email me at sherman.on@hgfin.net. They'll be able to hear your story and share with the world. Thanks again, folks. This is Biz Talk with Sherman. Sherman's out.